Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be doing Josh's Cheese book tag. It was created by Josh of Literary Gladiators, and he created this tag June 29th of 2015, and I will leave a link to his original tag down below. So, prompt number 1, processed cheese, which is the American flat cheese that you can put on like sandwiches or hamburgers, also Velveeta or similar sort of block cheeses that you can use for cheese sauces or cheese dips. So, if you like processed cheese, a book that is a guilty pleasure. If you don't like processed cheese, a book that is renowned but you feel is overrated. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the American cheese, that sort of processed, individually wrapped type of cheese. I don't particularly like it. But I do like cheese dip with the big processed cheese blocks. So I'm going to go with I like it. So, a guilty pleasure. I'm going to go with Kings of the Wyld by Nicholas Eames. This came out 2017. It's about a group of retired mercenaries who are treated in this world like rock stars, and very much how mercenary bands are composed is very reminiscent of musical groups. And the band gets back together in order to aid the former leader's pursuit of his daughter, who has herself become a mercenary and has embroiled herself in a war in a far distant city. And the novel is the men's journey to rescue Golden Gabe's daughter. And it's fantastic. I loved every minute of reading this book. It was a hoot. Absolutely a hoot. Love this book. Can't wait to reread it. Put that up. Okay. Prompt number 2. Emmentaler. I'm not entirely sure what kind of cheese that is. I'm assuming it's some kind of like Swiss cheese. A book with too many holes in the plot or structure. I'm going to go with Lost Gods by Micah Yongo. Now, I enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed this book when I read it. It's about a young man and his cadre who have been taught for most of their lives how to be assassins, secret agents, super warriors. And as part of their graduation, they are sent on missions to assassinate various enemies of the local empire. However, this mission goes belly up very quickly. One of the main character, Nathan's comrades, murders another one of their comrades, and he abandons his mission to go in pursuit of her. And from there he discovers that there is a hidden war coming that he's going to play a role in. Now, where there is a major plot hole is the fact that one of the other point of view characters, who's the young monarch of this empire that Nathan serves, has a new slave girl servant who he becomes very attracted to very early in the book. And it just so happens that the runaway assassin is that girl. And she's been there the entire time. So how exactly can she have been the assassin who's been killing? Okay, so in addition to the, let me back up, the other cadre member, several other members of this brotherhood have been murdered over the course of months. And the people who are in charge of the order suspect it's, or blame this girl and Nathan, because she's disappeared and he's run off. And then it's finally revealed that she's been the princess or the king's servant this entire time. How could she have not only been killing all of these members of the Brotherhood and also be with the king all this time? It does not make any sense. And it doesn't seem to dawn on anybody. And it's just like, grabbing the idiot ball or something. But I mean, I still really enjoyed it. It's just that, yeah, that nobody realizes that just, major plot hole. Okay, number 3, Mozzarella. A book that is rightfully renowned. Given that these books are all science fiction and fantasy, there can only be one. The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. And needs no introduction. This is the foundational text of modern fantasy. All modern fantasy owes something to Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings. Let me see if I can find a spot to put these without them falling over. Okay, excuse me. Number 4, Sharp Cheddar. A book that is great despite sparking a sudden reaction, fury, fear, tears, or a punch in the gut. I had a very tough decision with this one. Because great implies a lot of things. And also, how do you kind of deal with that gut, that punch? And I'm going to go with what was the next one? Oh. Yeah, I'm going to go with The Last Son by Katie Edwards. So how did this sort of punch me? Now, this one might not necessarily be the best book for this prompt. So I've talked about this a lot. I think where my fury comes in, or like when it sparked fury, was there are scenes in this book where Rune, the main character, basically completely shuts down and fights, and it's just infuriating. And yeah, I mean, it's understandable why he would break down, he would sort of freeze up and go into a catatonic fugue or whatever. But it is still sort of like, in the narrative flow, a very hard stop with that. Also, the fact that he's sort of, I think, to a degree, self-destructive. Even though part of, think the general plot of the entire series is that he's going to eventually break out of it. Although a good chunk of the humor is in Rune and Bran's continual sort of feelings. But anyway, so, okay, let's move on. Muenster, a book that should not be judged by its cover or face value. I didn't really find a good book for this one, unfortunately. I was going to go with Katie, The Last Son again, but I really don't, I couldn't find one for that one. 6, Parmigiano Reggiano, a book that is the complete package. For that, I'm going to go with Frank Herbert's Dune. This is absolutely a wonderful novel in and of itself. It does not need any sequels, even though those sequels are some of those sequels are pretty good. But definitely, Dune is just absolutely the perfect package and really needs no more introduction than that. Number 7, Feta, a book that leaves its mark or has a strong message. I'm going to go with Perdido Street Station by China Mieville. So this book came out about 20 years ago. It's one of the first successful novels in the new weird genre and has really influenced me in how I want to write, the kinds of stories I want to write. That as much as I've talked about wanting to write a sword and sorcery story, I've also, since having read Perdido Street Station, the new weird and this sort of genre mashup has really influenced a lot of what I want to do. So definitely Perdido Street Station has left its mark. 8, Roquefort, a book that you feel deserves greater recognition. I'm going to go with Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James, which came out about a year ago. It was a bit controversial. It's a lot of readers were, it was hyped to be the next big thing, and then it kind of fell off. The writing style that Marlon James uses is a bit off-putting, I think, for a lot of readers. But I think if you can, once you find the kernel of the story, once you orient yourself and figure out what's going on, it's not that difficult, and it is a really, really great story. And I do think it does deserve a lot more recognition than it ultimately received. 9, Asiago, a book that was beyond your expectations. For this one, I'm going to go with Ninefox Gambit by Yoon. This came out, I want to say 2017 or maybe 2016. And in the early reviews I saw and read of this, a lot of hay was made of the difficulty of the science, that this was a dense, sort of esoterically scientific book, and it really is a blast to read. It really is incredibly entertaining. The difficulty of the science aside, it's a very, very good book. So, yeah. Okay. Number 10, Gouda, a book that was a light-hearted delight. For this one, I'm going to go with The City of Lost Fortunes by Bryan Camp. So I read this one in 2018. Yeah, it came out. Did this come out in 2017? I need to go look into that. This book was a blast. Just lighthearted, fun, and completely brilliant. It's about a young man named Jude who becomes embroiled in a magical, mythological battle for the heart, the soul, the future of New Orleans, and is just a hilarious romp from beginning to end. Number 11, Limburger. A book that proved to be too much to endure. I'm going to go with Amberlough by Lara Elena Donelly. Like I've said several times before, this is a book that's a fantasy counterculture inspired by Weimar Germany. And so one of the main characters, Cyril de Paul, is tasked with investigating and uncovering a drug smuggling operation, I think, in which a man named Aristide, who is an MC of a cabaret, and also Cyril's lover. They're basically playing a romantic cat and mouse game. And as this investigation, their romance unfurls, the various states of which Amberlough is a part of are increasingly becoming fascistic. They're being taken over by fascist-inspired political party called the Ospreys. And eventually Cyril is taken off of the Aristide case and sent to interfere in an election of one of the constituent states. And he is made, and he's forced to become a double agent. And from that point, there was a scene where he is basically, okay, this is what you're going to have to do. And part of what you're going to have to do is pretend you're straight. And that infuriated me, just absolutely infuriated me. And how the rest of the book proceeded from there just continued to infuriate me. It was so... Everybody's juggling the idiot balls in this book. Just everybody. Although, I mean, the thing is had the focus been just exclusively, I think, on the cabaret culture, the demi-monde of Amberlough, Amberlough would have been great, I think. But the political plot, just being as front and center as it was, it didn't work. And yeah. Anywho. Okay, number 12, Brie. A book that gave you that warm, mushy feeling. I'm going to go with God of Broken Things by Cameron Johnston, which is kind of surprising because this book is rather grimdark. But there's a scene in the final chapters where the day has been saved and the heroes have gone off on their merry way, where the hero and one of his companions, for whom there's been a budding romance, they sort of reconnect. Spoiler alert. And that final epilogue is just brilliant and leaves one with a very, very mushy feeling, I would say. So I would go with that for Brie. Now, as a bonus, what are my favorite cheeses? I would say I love mozzarella, definitely on pizza. Sharp cheddar is definitely by far my favorite cheese. I love sharp cheddar. Use it in practically everything. Omelets, if I'm making burritos or something like that. Summer sausage and cheese. Sometimes when I have summer sausage and cheese, there's a good chunk of cheese left over. I'll just cut it up and eat it for lunch. Sometimes, definitely sharp cheddar is my favorite. Parmigiano Reggiano. Quite enjoy it, although I haven't had it recently. And Feta. Oh, I love Feta. It's been way too long since I've had that. Really need to get some. So, maybe in a month or two. So anyway, since this is an old tag, I don't know if who all has done it or even know about it. So if you watch this and you're interested, consider yourselves tagged. Until then, BookTube, have a great afternoon and stay safe.